sleuths of the night, once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latex gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Just like every other podcast, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You guys know what to do. Today, we're going to be talking about the Jack and Lily Sullivan disappearance. There's been a lot of things that have been dropping in the last few 48 hours or so when major news media or mainstream media out there in Canada began to release some information referencing some other witnesses from the area. That has sparked up a lot of debate, amongst the community that are trying to search and find answers for Jack and Lily. And so we're going to go back into that today. We have Dr. Vona is going to be joining us. She's going to be kind of, explaining some of the things that we're seeing and what we're talking about. There's some new stuff that's come out. I got a hold of a transcript that I've never seen before, and there's some interesting things in this transcript. It's the dispatch audio transcript. I want to say real quick, and I want to give a shout out first and foremost to give me 1 second. I'm just pulling everything out. It's called the YouTube channel Daphne's Case File. Daphne's Case Files. Sorry about that. I pronounced that wrong. Daphne's Case Files. She's actually been helping me out a little bit, sending me some information and some stuff to make sure that we're accurate and getting the proper information out. And so, thank you to her. Before we bring on Dr. Vona and before we start today's program, I do have something like it's a little bit on the sour side. And I never asked for help for anything from you guys or financial or anything, but a dear friend of mine, my buddy Daniel T and his partner Starlet Gonzalez, she recently, within the last 6, 7, 8 months, has was found out and diagnosed to have cancer. She's going under an aggressive chemotherapy, and it's chemo, so there's a lot of illness behind it, not feeling great, things like that. My buddy Daniel, who's somewhat self-employed, when you're working on your own and working for yourself, there's not a lot of these benefits that come about. And so in the live chat, and then I'm going to put this in the comment section for the replay crew. It's also in the description, and you can also use some of these. If you guys want to donate to them, it'd be great. This is for Starlet Gonzalez and Starlet Strong. Our thoughts and prayers are out for her and Daniel. Daniel's been on the show. If you go back, it's been about a year or so. He's a musician. And so, he was on the show. We talked to him a little bit about, his music and things of that nature. And since then, they've fallen on hard times. And so if you guys could find it in your hearts, I truly appreciate it. Thank you. And for those that do, and you're amazing, and we appreciate you. Without further ado, let's bring in Dr. Vona and let's talk about Jack and Lily. How's it going, Dr. Vona? How are you doing today?
Well, I'm okay, Dan. I'm sorry about your friend. I'll keep them in my prayers.
I appreciate that. Yes, 100%. It was a shock to me and Brittany. I've known Daniel for a very long time, probably going on almost 3 decades now. And so me and him have been good friends. And Starlet, she's been in his life the better part of like 6, 7 years now. And so she's been, close and stuff like that as well. And so I hope they get back. I hope it sounds like everything's going to go well. It's pretty sad situation because her father just had cancer and he just beat it, and now she does.
Sometimes that happens where like the parent, my dad died of thyroid cancer, but he always says that he was glad that he was, when he got diagnosed, that he did, because here both of my sisters, my brother, and two of my nieces all had cancer too at the same time, and they're all cancer survivor now. So that's going to be your friend next year. She's going to be a cancer survivor, and that's how we have to think about it.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's what I was telling my buddy Daniel, which was confusing growing up because we had the same name. And,
Right.
and we weren't the only two. There was another 2 or 3 of us that had the same name. I remember when I was in high school, there was a time when I was in a class where there was 3 of us, and you couldn't say Daniel, Dan, or Danny without all of us just turning around. And so, yes, I appreciate everybody's well wishes and comments in the comment section. I appreciate that. So there's been some new updates in the Jack and Lily Sullivan case. I'm glad you can join me, Dr. Vona, and I kind of want to go through some of the things that have gone on. Now, first and foremost, there's a nonprofit that is kind of, from what I understand, and I know there's some issues going on. There's some drama going on, I guess, with the persons, not with the nonprofit, but those that are kind of working behind the scenes of some things. I don't got all the details, but I know like Christine was working. It sounds like she's not. I don't know. I need to get in contact with her, but Please Bring Me Home is a nonprofit that was, from what I understand, is in contact with some folks that are related to the Jack and Lily Sullivan and what their Sullivan disappearance, and what they're doing is trying to put together some searches and things like that so that they can find the kids. And one interesting thing about, their this brooch, this flyer that they put out was, it says here, please note that Jack's green jacket has been accounted for. Now, the reason this is important is because one of the reasons that Daniel has felt like somebody went into the house and took the kids, or Malaya may have, this is him, not me. I don't agree with Daniel on this, but that he stated to me before that he thought that maybe perhaps Malaya had somebody come in and pick the kids up and go, and that he felt that they would have had to have known who they were because, they would have gotten scared if it was a stranger. And one of the things that he couldn't figure out was that there was a jacket that was missing, and it was in a place that was too high for Jack to have reached it. It seems like they may have found it. Now, I know that a couple of days before the disappearance, Malaya went with the kids to go do some laundry and things like that. So I'm assuming that's where it was. How does this affect your thoughts on things, if any, now that we know that the jacket that was possibly in a place that was too high for the kids to get is now accounted for?
I don't know that on its own that it totally changes my thought process. I think it's going to be like after we talk about other things that we have tonight, I wonder if then it will change my perception a little bit. Let me just tell everyone real quick that I think I have a concussion. So I did my best to prepare for tonight. You guys, my dumbass walked right into the side mirror of a truck last night, and I hit my head hard. So I was reading a lot of the stuff that you sent me, but after I would read for a couple of minutes, I would like feel sick to my stomach. So I wasn't able to read everything. So let's see if it changes my mind after, because isn't there other things too that were found out in the past 48 hours?
Correct. There's a few things that were found out, and yes, 100%.
I think the bigger question is, how does it change your thought process?
So I'm not one to jump to a conclusion. I really try not to, right? And finding the jacket on its own, it just kind of makes me feel like nobody went into the house. I was correct on that. A little bit of indication on that aspect. I know some people are saying that Daniel brought up a blue jacket. They're referring to a jacket, so I think the color is a matter of schematics, and so semantics. I'm sorry, and so I just don't think that it's not anything that's going to move the needle one way or the other. Now, the information that recently came out is a different story. Now, I know that I sent you it and you hadn't gotten a chance to read it, so I'm going to kind of go with
I have most of it. I printed it out, and then I'm like, wait, let me try to print it out. And so I think I read most of it.
All righty. So the information that did come out for those that are tuning in for the first time or listening to this for the first time, there's been 2 neighbors that have come forward and spoken about a situation about hearing vehicles. And these are 2 neighbors who know each other, or 2 people that know each other that were either living or residing or staying somewhere that was relatively close to where Daniel lived, and or where Daniel lives, and where Jack and Lily were at shortly before the disappearance. So for those that don't know, Justin Smith, and I have this photo here. So this is Justin Smith. This is who he is.
He looks like Daniel a little.
That's what I said. I was like, man, these guys could be this could be his older brother or his like father or something. That's what I said too. I said that as well. It's not his father. I mean, he's only, I think like 6 or 7 years older than Daniel. So his older brother. He could be his older brother. Yeah. This goes on to say that Justin Smith says that he was on good terms with the McKenzie family and helped Janie out in the past. He did not know Malaya, Daniel, Jack, or Lily specifically. So this is a guy who is claiming right there. He says he didn't know who the kids were. Right? Is that what you're getting from that? This is the guy that didn't know that there was kids there?
Yes.
Because he says he didn't know of Malaya, Jack, or Lily specifically.
But when he says that he doesn't know about them specifically, could that just mean that like he notices that there's like kids in the neighborhood, but he just doesn't know exactly who's who?
That's possible. That's a good observation right there. That's possible. That could be it. It goes on to say that on Thursday night into Friday morning, he was up till about 1 a.m. on Facebook, and around 1:30 a.m. he heard a car on Highway 289 turn around by the railroad tracks near the Glairlock Road in Lansdowne Station Road, and it made noise when it made noise, then went quiet.
Oh, I guess Daniel dropped down. So it said it went quiet. The vehicle was quiet for about 2 minutes, then drove towards Loring Road. He later spoke with Brad Wong, who informed him Daniel's vehicle came and went 5 or 6 times that night. Wong said the car. Let me read the one sentence, and then you can finish with it. Wong said the car Smith heard was Daniel, and then it just says Smith helped with the search on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but did not find anything.
All righty. So good points. And here's the interesting. So this was on May 17th. This was 15 days after the disappearance. Now he speaks after he speaks to law enforcement after he speaks to his buddy, Brad Wong, who's informing him that the vehicle he heard that was passing by that night was Daniel's. Now let's go up to Wong's statement. Wong said, and I'll show you guys. This is Wong. And if you guys are wondering about the 289 thing, the street, that's what he has tattooed on his neck. That's too
crazy, right?
Yeah. He's got something like tattooed on his neck, a Chevy symbol. He has a Camaro. I believe it's a 5-speed. I wonder what those sound like late at night. And then, he's got some other tattoos. And there's nothing wrong with people with tattoos. I got them. But this is him. Now, here's what Wong said, and this was on May 9th. So this was also about a week after the disappearance. So a week after the disappearance, Wong said he did not wish to provide a statement, but was willing to have a conversation with police. So he was not cooperating, and to a certain extent. He was like, I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to give you a statement. I'm not going to do anything. Now, one of the reasons this may be is because he is a bit of a criminal. And so here it goes on to say on February 12th, 31-year-old Bradley Mitchell Wong of Lansdowne and Thomas Fulton of Rockland have been charged with breaking and entering, 2 counts of possession of private property obtained by crime, and 2 counts of theft under $5,000. Wong was also charged with possession of a controlled substance. And here, let me pull it up. There's a lot of ads on this thing. here's an image of all the things that they had stolen from people's yards and houses. And this includes guns. Now, guns aren't typically left in the yard. They're typically left inside somebody's house into a safe. So he's not just attacking or targeting storage sheds and things of that nature. He went into people's homes. Does that make sense? So
It does. Why so many gas cans?
Well, it's you see, there's a lot of not radiators.
Oh, yes, I know. Yes,
generators,
like power washers and generators and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like a lawnmower back there. There's a weed eater in the back. There's some music equipment and things like that there.
Could he have just been afraid that if he made a statement that the cops would come to his house and then, or that maybe they were onto him in some sense and that they were just trying to get a statement to get him to talk about this other stuff? Like, in other words, in his head, even though that's not true, we always talk about how perception could be reality.
Right. Maybe. What about this? Some folks that get involved in crimes have been known to, involve themselves in the search and things like that. Now, I'm not saying 100% certain that's the case with Bradley Wong and Justin Smith. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
what
just
would
saying
be their motive, though?
Well, here's the thing. You got somebody so if they're stealing things and they've got arrested for possession of a controlled substance, why do you think they're stealing?
So that they could fuel their substance.
Yes, so they can fuel their habit. And so, and when somebody's on drugs, are they in the right mindset? Can they be influenced to commit something they normally wouldn't have committed, especially if the drugs are potent?
Sure.
And so if you have a guy who goes onto somebody's property, or you have a couple of guys or one guy or whatever the case may be, goes onto somebody's property, and if you have somebody who's stealing to this extent to feel a habit, it's probably a pretty big habit. I don't put it past people that are fueling this habit to that extent. Now, I'm not saying that I know that for a fact. This is my opinion. I don't put it past them to go through the trash. I don't put it past them to rip open the trash and pull out some, like if they feel some fabric, to see if this is some clothes or something that they can utilize. Rip out a piece of blanket. And so I also don't see, like, there's certain people, like for instance, Richard Allen in Delphi. He said he went to his mom's, he got drunk. I think he probably got drunk and did some other things, which is one of the reasons why a man of his age who had never committed a crime like that goes out and massacres, two little girls, and his intention was a sexual in manner. So what I'm saying here is, and I do not know, law enforcement could have cleared these guys already for all I know. They don't say that in here. They don't really say they investigated them. I don't know, but I think it's weird. Now, here's the weird stuff about it, right? So Wong says that he said in the early morning hours of May 2nd that he heard a loud vehicle coming and going from the area of 1407 Glairlock Road. He said his residence is an elevated position from Daniel's residence, and he could see a vehicle's lights over the treetops. So he must have been outside. For one, in the early morning hours to have noticed this. Two, let's pull up what it looks like. So Wong's house is, I'm not going to point out which one it is because it's not anybody's business. That's why I put the ping way off to the right. This is where Daniel's house is. And so he's saying that because his house is elevated, that he can see through the treetops lights coming in and out of his place. Let's put it for August 2025. You think you're seeing a bunch of headlights moving out, and he's saying through the treetops. So how high elevated is this guy?
I don't know. I think we would have to. This is the other thing, though. Wouldn't it be dark at night? So I feel like even if there are trees, that it could be possible to see. I'm just trying to play the other, like, devil's advocate.
Okay.
And my other question for you is, do we know what kind of drugs he was using? Because I think that depends on whether I would think, like, how I would think this through. So, like, in other words, if you're on like Xanax, for example. I could see you like doing something that you might not remember the next
The
day.
drug,
Or
right. The drug that I hear is popular in the area starts. Everybody calls it
I
meth.
got you. I got you. I got you. So like
I'm
the
not
thing,
saying that's it either. I don't know. You're absolutely right. It could have been something a lot less.
like, could it have been, I guess what I'm getting to, is it a stimulant or was it a depressant? Because that really could have an effect too on how people.
So here's my issue with what he's saying too. So he tells law enforcement that a vehicle left 3 or 4 times after midnight into the early morning hours. Said the vehicle would drive off in the distance and he could hear it stop, then return. He said he remained in earshot the entire time. Why didn't he tell law enforcement it was Daniels? Like he told his buddy over here, Justin Smith, that it was Daniel's car that was driving back and forth. And second, doesn't it seem to you that, because it kind of seems to me, because remember now Justin doesn't talk until May 17th. And Justin says that he had later spoken with Brad Wong, who informed him that Daniel's vehicle went by 5 or 6 times that night. Wong said the car Smith heard was Daniel. To me, that sounds like he's trying to convince him of something. And then you get this. So this was a random neighbor who had put out something out there before anything before the witnesses had come out. And this was an anonymous post, and a lot of people were pointing this out. But it goes on to say, I have to wonder if they'll ever be found, let alone if we'll ever know the truth of what happened to them. They live 500 feet from me. Now, I think he's not going to be very honest and accurate, whoever put this out there, and say he lives 500 feet away from Janie, because, well, then it would be obvious as to, which house it was or whatever. There's only one house. Now, I did talk to Janie, and the only house that was within 500 feet, she did mention to me this, because I've heard about this story. I hadn't seen this post yet, but I'd heard about this story before. And, when I asked her about the house that people were referring to off to the left, she said it's vacant. Nobody lives there. So it's not that house. So this guy says they live 500 feet from me. I didn't even know kids lived there at all. I thought it was a drug house. Now, him saying that I didn't know that kids didn't live there at now, could that have been Justin? Because he already it's already said there in the documents that he didn't know who Lily and Jack were. Or could it have been Wong? If it was Wong, it's kind of weird because Wong's kids ride the bus and they have seen each other, Daniel Wong and their kids together. So it goes on to say there's always cars there, and it's so odd to me, but I can't remember clearly if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but there was so many cars out there that particular day, and that driveway was full, and a car was even parked on the side of the road. It was like 2 p.m. at latest. I remember judging them, thinking how they were probably in there sharing a crack pipe or whatever, laugh out loud. And then boom, Friday, this all comes out. I'm like in distress over it. It's also effed. Now, a lot of people were thinking that this was somebody who was saying something about cars, and then I've had some text message. No, it's on a discussion post, and some folks are trying to say that this could be either Brad or Justin, which it could fit. The other weird thing is that nobody else heard these cars. Nobody else.
How many people live in the area?
Let's see. There's not a lot of people that lived in the area, but let's look at where Justin was at. So Justin says, and to me, I think they're all trying to indicate something for the wait, can you go down this road now? Oh wow, this wasn't there before. You couldn't go down this way.
Oh well.
Now you can. That's cool. Like just the other day that wasn't there. It stopped right here. All right. So here's where Justin lived. Now, you know what? Let's go back to what Justin said. Justin said that he was up and he's remembering this 2 weeks later, something that happened in the middle of the night on a random night with no reason to remember. But he's like at he was on Facebook till about 1 a.m. He was up to around 1 a.m. on Facebook, around 1:30. He heard a car, 289, turn around at the railroad tracks near Garlock Road and Lansdowne Road. It made a noise, then went quiet, and the vehicle was quiet for 2 minutes, and then drove towards Laird Road. So Where was Justin at that he could hear all this? So Justin, this is his, and I got this backwards. This is where I believe his mom lives. And then this is where his girlfriend lived, or vice versa. I honestly don't remember. It's one or the other. So and I'm not sure if it's his girlfriend or his wife, to be honest, because I know he was married. From what I understand, it was the girl he was with. So I'm assuming it's his wife. They broke up. They're no longer together, which is why he was somewhat staying with mom. But the night of the disappearance, he was apparently at this cabin that's just down the road from where Daniel's house is. But from here, we're expected to believe that he was able to hear and know that the car drove past here, stopped at the railroad tracks way over here, and then came back and did some other stuff. Now, the interesting thing, like I mentioned before, is we also have this. And a lot of people were trying to tell me that, hey, Justin brought up that there was somebody that passed by, early hours. Because I was questioning, hey, May 17th, 2 weeks later. This is May 2nd, 2:22 p.m. And this is a transcript from dispatch. It says, we just got a call from Justin Smith, who lives close by where you guys are now. He said he can talk to members about any vehicles that passed Highway 289. If you guys need to get a hold of him, I can always send his number down to you guys if needed. One, he's not saying, oh, I know information about a vehicle that was out there in the middle of the night. He's just saying, I can tell you about the cars that have passed by. But he what do you think about that? Feeling the need to just kind of like this is while everybody thought that they wandered off, and he's like, hey, I can tell you about the cars that passed by. While everybody, this is very early on. There's no accusations of anything nefarious at this point. What do you think about this?
So this is what I think about this. I think that the way that the cop is repeating this, he's not saying that he said, I could tell you about anything, but in their conversations, we have a highway by by my old house, and you could hear when cars come by because of the way of the landscape. So maybe could it be that in their discussions, he's look, because maybe it's quiet. Isn't there only 100 people in the whole town? Mm-hmm. So maybe he's thinking look, if somebody's going up and down this road, I would hear it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to look at this the whole picture.
Right. And if you look at it from the this whole picture, to me, it's a little weird to me that
the whole thing, this whole story is
it is. The whole thing is a little weird. I don't disagree with you, but you have two guys that are friends, and these are the only two guys that hear this car. They're implicating Daniel, and they're trying to implicate the fact that he was doing something over there by where the blanket was. And we find out, one, that I know that the bus didn't capture the blanket there in the morning, right? The second thing is this all happened on May 17th. This was all investigated. And by July 16th is when law enforcement has come out and said that Daniel, Janie, and Malaya, they don't believe they've done anything criminal. So this part has been investigated. So those are the things that we do know. From what I understand, when it comes to Wong, he apparently was not too pleased with law enforcement being near his property. Didn't want him on his property. And this is how close they were to his property.
He's the one that had the stolen stuff, though, right?
Yep.
So I don't know that I'd want them on my property either.
Right. No, I agree that there could be reasons for him not to want them that are outside of the realms of something nefarious, right? But then involve yourself in the case then. If you didn't have anything on your property that was, or if you did, let's just say you had all this stolen property, drugs, all these things. Why involve yourself in this case?
Because it's a small community. And I think that when you have a small community like this, even though you're right, though, the one said that he didn't even know that there was kids there. So, it's not, but the other ones, like you said, his kids might have been on the bus with them. Mm-hmm. I guess this is my thing. This is what I'm afraid of. What if we then find out that these guys literally were just trying to tell them, even though you have a criminal record, it doesn't necessarily make you You know what I mean? We say the same thing about Daniel, even though he's a bad person, like with not a bad person, like a bad person with girls, like stuff like that doesn't make him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just want to be careful there, because then it's, you know, we don't want to do what not us, but like what happened to, you know, a lot of the people.
Right.
But yeah, that's all.
Right. And this is why I didn't want to bring up his name or anything. And I hadn't brought up his name, you know, because the fact was, at the end of the day, he hasn't been charged or anything like that. Fortunately, mainstream media is what brought him up. And the way I think of it is, if like
Daniel Martell just said
you.
bad person with girls. That's what I meant, Daniel. I didn't mean bad person in general. I meant with girls. I think
Right.
you need to like play it single for a minute, man.
Right. What I'm trying to say too is though, dang it, I think I might have lost it.
I'm sorry. I just
no,
saw
it's
his
okay. It's
comment.
okay. What did you say beforehand? Right. before we-
About like we don't want to do it with the
Right.
BK
So,
stuff.
Here's the thing about this. I'm kind of doing them a little bit of a favor, because if you think I'm tough on them and asking them these questions, if Daniel gets arrested, all this information that they said, guess is what's going to happen. They're going to have to go up there on court in trial and testify to this. And if they think I'm tough, or I'm saying some things that, you know, about their past or their record, about their credibility, they got another thing coming for them when a defense attorney does. And so be prepared. Be prepared. If Daniel does get arrested, this is the type of stuff that's going to come out. Hey, you do, you know, narcotics. You've been arrested for this. You've been arrested for that. You weren't too keen on people being on your property. What's going on? You know, if I was Daniel's, you know, if I was a defense attorney and I was seeing something like this, I would be coming at these guys very hard, very hard. You know, the only two people in the neighborhood that hears anything are the two friends that hang out, that are continually hanging out. And you guys come in 1 week after each other with information that has stuck with you for so long about these two kids that are missing, but it took you a week and almost over 2 weeks to come in. And then when you do come in, the second guy fails to, you know, I don't know if he did it on purpose or whatever, but comes in and says, oh yeah, I was talking to my buddy and he was telling me this. And yeah, it was Daniel. You know, putting your stories together, getting them straight. So to me, I mean, that's the avenue that I would come in if I was a defense attorney. And if Daniel did do something wrong, if he did something wrong and he ends up getting arrested for it, I don't want somebody that committed a crime that is extremely nefarious or extremely horrific to get away with the crime. And I understand, just like Molly back in the Bryan Kohberger case, she was going to have to face Ann Taylor, and Ann Taylor was going to go hard on her about her past and her history and things of that nature. And so this isn't going to be something that we're not going to hear. You know what I mean?
I do agree with that. I agree with that. I just want to be careful, because if they don't have anything,
sure.
you wouldn't want people to be discouraged from sharing tips that they might have in the future, because they're afraid that somebody might be like, well, you know, they shared this. Could they be the person?
I agree with that. That is true. That is true. You don't want to do that. I just find it odd that not anybody else heard this. Somebody else that maybe lived
You
closer.
would have to be awake.
Well, yeah, you would have to be awake. And then the other thing, that aspect that comes into it with what they're saying or what they're alluding to is, if Daniel did something nefarious on Thursday night, then Malaya and Janie would have to be in on it, because there's no way that it is possible that Daniel did something and something nefarious occurred and the kids got disappeared on Thursday night, Janie and Malaya not know about it and hear the kids in the morning and see the kids in the morning. So Malaya saw the kids. I think there was a interaction like at 8:20 where Lily popped her head in. She woke up Meadow. So Malaya got up and turned the TV on. Some people are trying to say that Malaya turning on the TV was to drown out the noise so Daniel wouldn't wake up if somebody came in and picked up the kids. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I think it was because the kids were loud.
I hear what you're saying. It's just, I don't know. Daniel, I feel like this case just, whenever I think one thing, then I think something else, and I think something else.
Yeah.
And his mom, with all due respect, just being a mom myself, I feel like at the time, nobody would have known that this was they probably thought they were going to find them in 10 minutes or whatever down the road. So I could see a mom just being like backing up their son's story. And again, I'm not saying that he did anything wrong. I'm just saying, like, if they were like, yeah, I heard something, like, yeah, maybe I did. And she might have thought she heard, I don't know. But now with the Leah or whatever, that I hear what you're saying. But his mom, I just feel like, I don't know, like sometimes, I don't know, as a mom, you don't want to believe that your kid could be capable of doing anything. So I feel like even if you don't hear something or you do, like you might think that, I don't know. So that one, I don't put as much. And again, I don't think anybody's lying or anything. I'm just saying, as like a mom, you don't want to believe, just like with Bryan Kohberger's dad, right? We don't think that he wanted to believe that he ever did anything wrong. So that's how I feel about that part. But with her, I see what you're saying.
Right. And I'm glad you bring that up, because I'm going to touch on that with like even Wong's spouse, because she had posted this, and this is how close Command Center was to their property. And she had said, you know, praying all day for these babies to come home to their parents. Watching this unfold in front of my house is overwhelming. Please, Lord, let these sweet babies be home safe. And then she also says, on September 5th, rumors are carried by haters, spread by fools, and accepted by idiots. And so I wonder, now that's obviously before September 5th is before this article just dropped. So it sounds like there were some rumors being spread in that town about something already in a small town. What do you think about that?
Well, there's only 100 people. Of course, there's going to be talk.
Well, I don't think there's just 100 people. I think there might be 100 people in that small vicinity, but let's see. Let me pull it up the map real quick.
Yeah, how many people are in the town?
Because they're up here. This is like Lansdowne, but they're off of like, well, they go to Truro and stuff.
There's like 100 people in my block.
Yeah. There's like in this vicinity, there's not a lot of people that live here, right? But they go to oh gosh, I guess this place, New Gaslow. This is the nearest place. Like this would be in the United States. I mean, if you're local here, it'd be like Castroville to like San Antonio, which is, let me see how far this is from the nearest place.
Yeah, because that didn't mean a lot to everybody because they don't know how far
10
that
miles.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, 10 miles. Okay.
Yeah, it's 10 miles to the nearest city.
That's still like 10 miles. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, they live out in the middle of nowhere, up to 10 miles away from the middle from the city. But are there houses in the area? There are. I mean, you have Daniel's.
Well, there's a school, right? And the school has to have a lot of kids, so there is a central area.
Right, and then you have these houses down here, this house down here. I mean, it's not a neighborhood for sure.
Right, exactly.
100%. You know, you got houses sporadically put in places, a lot of places for kids to walk off and hide.
I feel like that's like a place where everybody knows everybody's business. It's hard not to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? That's the crazy thing you say that, because a lot of people have told me about this Wong fella from that neighborhood. Like a lot of people have told me about him. Not Daniel, not Janie. In fact, Daniel and Janie have told me like that they don't believe he did anything. They're like, oh, he's just kind of like always driving around and kind of saying what he's accusing them of doing. But to me, Daniel and Janie have it in their mind that Malaya had something, you know, the kids taken for some reason or another, right? I feel they have confirmation bias because of that. But there's a lot of people like I'm going to read an email that I got like over a month ago, and it's about actually Justin Smith and Wong being together. Like I've known about these guys for a minute. Let's see. And these people that were coming to me, they were telling me that, you know, something to the effect that don't say anything that, well, not to say who they are, but that they lived somewhat in the area and they know some people that do. And that Justin was out saying pretty much the same thing about what we talked about here, that he was at a bar saying almost this word for word, that, you know, he was there about 500 feet, blah, blah, blah. Didn't know there was kids there. Thought they were on drugs, blah, blah, blah. Like he was like, I was told this before any of this ever came out. And I was told about Wong Like, there's a reason why I was able to, like, remember I said a long time ago, there's a neighbor that's suspicious.
You did. You definitely did.
Well, there was reasons why I believe that there was a neighbor that was suspicious, and it was this fella. And from what I understand, a lot of people don't like him from that area. They fear that their stuff's going to get taken.
Yeah, but just because he steals
No.
people's stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. There's other fears.
Okay.
Like, to me, and this is just my observation, it seems like when it comes to Justin and Wong, there's some people that are really scared of them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's all I could say. I mean, and it's more than one person. There are some people that I have spoken to who are scared of them for one reason or another. They're just scared of them.
I was going to say, I wonder why.
Well, I can tell you one thing. And it's because it's in this article here. But is there something here that may make you scared of somebody that is unstable? That's leaning up against the wall?
Daniel. I don't know.
That are leaning up against the wall that can put a hole in a deer?
I hear you.
From what I hear is there's more of these.
Okay. And are they like, are they from other
stuff.
people that they took? Because that is, see, to me, it does matter if you're stealing someone's firearm or if you're stealing like their lawnmower.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, and I hear I just hear it's from what I understand, and this is from multiple people. Like, I have talked to probably like 8 or 9 folks. One of the persons that I was talking to was Daniel's girlfriend at the time, the one that just, started up all the drama, like with all this stuff that we heard that had really nothing to do with the kids, just kind of like give us a behind the scenes of Daniel's relationship and stuff. I'd been talking with her, she was giving me information on things at one point, and, she started to believe Daniel too. And, because she went into it thinking that Daniel may have done something. And so her whole motive behind everything was to see if Daniel did. It was. And she started to believe that, he wasn't that guy. And then, so I hadn't heard from her for a while. And then all of a sudden, everything hits the fan, and boom, everything starts blowing up again. And so I have heard from a lot of people, some people that are close to Daniel, some people that are close to Malaya, very close to Malaya, some people that lived in the neighborhood, some people that used to live in the neighborhood, some people that are very, very knowledgeable of, like, for instance, Wong and Justin. Like, one of the things that's not out there is where Justin was staying that night, which is right here, which is weird. If Wong is at Justin's house and he wants to go home, guess whose house he passes in front of? But just food for thought there. But Justin was out here at this campground, which would make sense why he could hear some things and why he would feel confident in knowing who was driving up and down the street. Because if he was at his other house way over here, there's no way in hell he was going to be able to hear that. Or if he was way over here, how is he going to have any information, right? And so I got this intel, and then once I got this intel and I read what he had said, it's the only thing that makes any plausible sense. And it makes me wonder again, if, given how close he lives there, if he's the guy who is saying all this. And at the end, he says, I'm distressed over it. It's also effed. It's a weird thing to end it off with, in my opinion.
I don't know. Because we don't, like, I don't know the whole conversation, so I don't know. You know what I mean? So that's hard too. Somebody's saying there's 85 kids in the whole school.
Yeah, it's a small school.
That is.
But with 85 kids, don't you think that everybody would know each other then?
Yes, I do think that. I have a question for you real quick that I keep thinking in my head. How you said that if Daniel did something, then she would have to know it. What if she did something? Wouldn't he have to know it?
Not necessarily, because he was asleep. She woke him up.
Yeah, but then how would he have heard the kids?
I agree. I don't think she did anything.
No, I don't either. That's why I was just stating that fact. Like, if it goes one way, doesn't it go the other?
Yeah, 100%. It all does. And that's kind of what I was saying too, that if one of them is involved, they all have to be involved because they all corroborate each other's story in some form or fashion. You get what I'm saying? And they've separated. They're no longer talking, and they've turned on each other. And so those are the things that you want. Like even in the Emmanuel Haru case, did his parents not turn on each other, and yet they were still able to, with minimal cooperation, without a body, they were able to pull up charges, and not only just charge the guy, but the guy pled guilty. So like a lot of things that like I get in the comment section where like this one person told me, and I made a joke. I hope they took it as a joke, but the thing was that when people buy drugs, they don't use their phones, and they don't pay with credit card. They pay in cash, and there's no trace of the buy. And I started laughing. I was like, how do you think they set up the buy? They use pigeons. Like I'm going to send a pigeon to my crack dealer and to meet me at this location to make sure that nobody has a phone. I was like, maybe at first when somebody meets somebody, they're probably standoffish, but once they get to know them, they go to each other's house. They set up the buy. Like, hey, I need to re-up on this. I need to do this. Meet me at the local same spot. Come by, roll by. Can you stop by? How much is this? And boom, boom. It's not covert. It's not covert.
No, but wasn't that same thing? Like, so those guys, if they were on math, wouldn't they have somebody too?
Well, here's the thing. They're not investigated like Daniel. Daniel's turned over his phone. His phone has been downloaded. These guys
shouldn't everybody be investigated?
Yeah, but you have to have a warrant to do that, to take somebody's phone and to do all those things. So the difference between Daniel and anybody else in that area is Daniel turned over his phone. So his locations are extremely more accurate than anybody else's because they're looking at the GPS off his phone. Everybody else in that area was just geofence. So all they have is called advanced timing records. They don't have their messages. They don't have anything. They don't have absolutely anything from Wong or Justin Smith or the person that lives at this house that I have no idea who they are. There's no way they would have any of that information from anybody else. And I know a lot of people would say, hey, well, if Wong didn't let them search their property, why don't they just get a warrant given his history? You still kind of need a warrant. I mean, what proof do you have? It would be very difficult to come up with evidence because of the location that they're at. Cell service is shoddy. So advanced timing records are going to be hard to utilize with any amount of accuracy, to be 110% honest with you. And so if I was a judge, and I said this last night, if I was a judge, and again, this is Canada, so it might be a little bit different than the United States, but if I was the judge and RCMP came in through the door and said, hey, we want to search this guy's house. And I said, why? Because he said no. He has a right to tell you no. Ain't none saying that he can't tell you no. You got something concrete. You got footsteps that are leading to his property. You got his DNA on something. You got his fingerprints on something. Until you find something that gives us an idea outside of him saying no, then you can come back and knock on the door. And it would be it's a lot harder to get a warrant for just some random guy because he lives in the neighborhood than it would be for Daniel because the kids went missing out of his care. And not to mention he was very cooperative, so they didn't really need as much to do anything. And I'm assuming the laws are similar, but some people are saying, well, why didn't they take Daniel's phone when he gave it to him right away? It's because you need a warrant for that. Now, yeah, he can give you permission, but this could be different there than here. But here, if you're going off of permission, you can also revoke permission at any time. And so, if they were going to go based off of permission only on Daniel's phone, he would have had to have been present the entire time that they were working on it in case he wanted to revoke his permission and require you to get a warrant. So even though somebody says yes, you want to cover your tail and get a warrant just in case he decides not to. In case he decides the morning he's going to walk into that building and say, you know what, never mind, I don't want to do this. You got yourself covered. It's easier to do that for Daniel, 100% easier. It's a lot harder to do that for anybody else.
How do we know though that, and again, Daniel, no disrespect, but how do we know that Daniel doesn't have like a burner phone?
Okay,
and not fair. Just Daniel, anybody. Like, and again, there's no disrespect. I'm just thinking of all of the scenarios.
So, what do you think he needs a burner phone for drug deals?
I don't know. I'm just saying, no, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if somebody's like, here's my phone, how do you know that that's really the only
Right. No, I understand that. I understand that. One, you got spotty internet service. They all have to connect to a router or for Wi-Fi. So that'd be easy to determine if there's another phone that was constantly connecting to their internet. That'd be one of the easiest way to figure out. Another way also is going through their financial records. There would have to be some sort of evidence of purchasing minutes, those type of things to determine whether or not they went
cash.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they paid in cash, we'd have to uncover what is the purpose behind all this covertness, right? Is it because of the drug aspect?
You could be cheating.
It could be cheating. Okay. So if he was cheating and he decided to go and get a burner phone for the cheating aspect. All right. So if
we
it was
all know how he is with the women.
Right. So let's just say that's the case. How would that turn into? I understand, like, when people say drugs, that drugs, if he was on drugs, kids could have gotten a hold of the drugs, drug dealer could have gone by, a bunch of different things. If he had another woman, how does that implicate Daniel?
It doesn't. It really doesn't. Okay. But we keep saying drugs, but what if it was like a prescription or something? Or what if it was like something that they drank under the sink, or I don't know.
Right. And that's possible. But here's the other thing is if they drank something under the sink and they found them somewhere and they passed, there's certain things that happen to the body, especially when things like that happen. Certain fluids come out in certain ways, vomiting, diarrhea, defecation, urination, those type of things happen especially when a kid loses their life. Those things happen. And so it would have had to have happened somewhere outside of where they're at, unless they did a really good job of cleaning up the scene and then dirtying it right back up.
Because, no, I don't necessarily think that.
I mean, unless they drowned. If that one would.
Yeah, but if somebody drowned, why wouldn't you call the police?
That's exactly the thing.
I could see if somebody like took someone's medicine by accident or something, why they might not want to because they have another child. Like I could see, like, there's other scenarios in my head that could work, but drowning, I don't know.
All righty. So if it was something accidental that the kids got into, at what point would they have? At what point did that happen?
I don't know this whole case. At what point, like, the kids left at some point, right? So, and they probably did walk off. Do you know what I mean? And I hope that nobody hurt them like that, Right. But it might not have been a premeditated thing like that. I don't think
it was.
Well, that's what I mean. So, and it could have been something that was like an accident that went, right. We can't tell anybody. I don't know.
But even if it was an accident, there's certain things that a person still has to do. They have to leave their house. They have to dispose of the bodies, and they have to be able to do that covertly without getting captured, without any pre-planning because it was an accident. So there were, and also without, just getting lucky at a bunch of different places. Because I understand that this is like a rural area and there's not that many cameras. That doesn't mean that there's not cameras. In fact, they have like some 8,000 hours of footage that they are looking at. And so, there's certain things that would have to happen, to dispose a body and things like that. Now, if there was an accident that occurred, I find it difficult that both Daniel and Malaya could pass a lie detector test, even if it was an accident, that they would be able to go in there and say, and convince themselves that, and this is both of them, right? Both of them have to do this, convince themselves that whatever happened wasn't their fault. They're not responsible for it. They don't know where they're at. And in Malaya's case, because the questioning was different, and we know that because the new documents that were just dropped out. Let me see if I can find it. I hope it's not too far from here. But when it comes to it talks about so let me pull it up where it talks about the polygraph. All right. So it says this is for Malaya underwent a polygraph test. She was this in relation to the investigation to eliminate her as a suspect, causing her children's disappearance and possible murder. She was found to be truthful when answering the following questions. When it goes to Daniel, it's a little bit interesting because Daniel's is different. I'm trying to find where it's at because this is a little bit in different order too. Where it comes to Daniel, it says he was truthful when answering no to the following questions. Here it is. Indicated he was truthful when answering no, and this part was redacted before, with answering no to the following questions. And then for her, it doesn't say when, answering no, meaning that her truthful questions, some of them were yes. And so that kind of tells me that there were different questions. And
Absolutely.
so for both of them to have passed a lie detector test in a short period of time without training or any of those type of things, and you look at all the other evidence behind it, I just find it unlikely that even an accident could have occurred and that they would have known about it. And I mean, again, could have accident occurred with Daniel and he did something and Malaya not know about it? I don't think so, because she heard the kids that morning. She's the one that woke up Daniel.
Well, I think even more so, right? What are the chances that, like, it's one thing for the accident to happen. Like, if you have multiple kids, what are the chances that they're both going to have the exact same accident? So that's what, like, makes me think that it wasn't something like that more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what you just said, and that makes me think too now. So it seems like they said that it made it look like they said she was honest on everything. But what if we're just reading into that he passed, but maybe there were questions that he answered yes to that were either inconclusive or, do you know what I mean? Because they're not saying that he passed blanket. They're just saying that he passed the ones that he said no to.
I believe RCMP have said in an interview that they were truthful. To me, it's written about the questioning that they asked is written differently too. And like I've said, like one of the things that I've been trying to explain to the audience was that when it comes to questions that you're going to be asking somebody for a lie detector test, you want to narrow your questions to what is feasible with the person that you're speaking with. For instance, they're talking about Cody. Cody is he took a polygraph test. He was the biological father that hadn't seen the kids in 3 years. His motivation may have been the kidnapping aspect. So they're going to ask him questions about kidnapping the kids that they're not going to ask questions to Daniel because he's already in the house, or Malaya. And so they're going to customize or focus the questioning reference to the possibilities that they could do. And so to me, that's kind of where that kind of falls into. And I think that's why it's different. I think they look at Malaya and say, all right, well, we have Daniel who's been saying a bunch of things about the possibility that she had him abducted, so we're going to ask her questions on that. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. And he also said that they asked questions about like as if they were already gone as opposed to like missing.
Right. And he also wanted other people to be asked questions. But the problem with that, and the reason why they don't ask other people, is because if you kind of have to have a reason to, like, for instance, if Malaya, like, he wants Hayden and Haley to take lie detector tests. And the reason why they don't need to ask them one is because Malaya passed. Now, if Malaya failed, then they probably would. And the reason being is if Malaya didn't have anything to do with it, if she wasn't responsible for the disappearance, unless, and based on the accusation that they were assisting Malaya, right? Because that's Daniel's accusation. Daniel's accusation is that Hayden and Haley are assisting Malaya. If Malaya passes, there's no point in testing the other persons. It's a lack of resource. I think that there's other cases where people will look at, like, a situation where you have a couple and one person was at the residence when something happens, and they do a lie detector test on the person that was there, and then they don't test the other person because the other person passed. That's kind of confusing. I have to find a scenario that fits that situation, but I'm sure I can.
But it would be the same as it is for the neighbors, right? You would need more, like probably, like you would need a reason.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can always ask, but you would need a reason to a certain extent, but you can always just ask. When it comes to like Malaya's family and stuff like that, I think it's because Malaya passed and her stepmom passed, or her mom passed, her stepdad passed also. So you have these three people
They took
on
a
her.
test too.
Yeah, they made them take a test as well. So it was 6 people that took the test. It was Malaya, Daniel, Malaya's mom, Malaya's stepdad, and then it was, I believe, Cody, and it was, I think his mom may have taken a test as well. And I think, well, no, you know what? I don't think his mom took a test. I know Janie took a test, but they couldn't complete the test because she has some sort of heart issue.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so, yeah, they did a few tests. I don't know. This like, and the one thing, and I wish I would have, let's see, is this it? Analysis of the boot print. Let's see. So the boot print was what was interesting about it was that they said that it was found kind of far away. And there's some other stuff that I wanted to show here. So let me pull that up real quick, because this stuff's interesting too. So let's go with the blanket. All righty. So right here it says this is at 3:22, between 3:22 and 3:52. The family has brought us to a location there not far away. There's a partial piece of a blanket, which mother says she believes belongs to her daughter. It's just off the road here, off the UPU status. You'll see where Bravo 3 and Bravo 8 are, blah, blah, blah. There's a couple of pieces of old clothing here, pieces just torn, like pieces of rag. What do you think about that? I thought that all those things, for one, were found separate. It kind of sounds like the blanket was somewhat found with other pieces of clothing there.
I don't know. I think that, well, I would have questions for Daniel, like, was this jacket in the trash too? Like, I would just have many questions, like, you know what I mean? Like, like, where did the coat come? I don't know. I have 1,000 questions.
He told me that he saw a picture of all the other stuff and he didn't know what they were for.
So he didn't recognize it as the coat? He didn't
recognize. No. So there was a couple of pieces of old clothing, pieces just torn, like pieces of rags. And he said that he was not familiar. He said they found a water bottle and they found some other things. He did not know if they found them together or not. He said that they had only showed him a couple of pictures of the items. And he said that the old clothes and whatever didn't seem like it belonged to anything. Does this sound like, is it possible that somebody was going through people's trash and they were pulling out things like this?
I don't know. Was this with the blanket that was the one in the trash, or was this with the blanket that was with the school bus or whatever? Remember there was like 2 different blankets?
So there was 2 different blankets. One blanket had nothing to do with anything, and that was found earlier.
That's what I mean. Was it with that, or was it with the other one?
This is the blanket that was found in the tree. Now, it is the same blanket that Daniel says is not on the camera on the school bus. Now, Daniel had, and I understand why, because the RCMP documents say at 4 p.m. is when Haley finds the blanket. Well, the bus passed by like at 3:50 something, and the blanket wasn't there. So in Daniel's mind, it wasn't there. And then Haley finds it a couple of minutes later. She must have planted it. And that was one of the reasons why he was, that's why he was thinking that. And I completely understand that. It makes sense. It's not there at 3:50. It's there at 4 when you're walking by. Why is that the case? That doesn't seem like that was what happened, though. It appears that what had happened was that at between 3:22 and 3:52, because that's when they're talking about something else, they're bringing up this piece of blanket. So I think this piece of blanket wasn't on camera because it was already recovered.
Oh, that's interesting.
You get what I'm saying? It was already recovered. Yeah. So to me, this kind of boils back to, It wasn't there at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning when the bus goes there. It wasn't there. It was there when the bus, right before the bus got there. So it must have been there at some point that day. Now, it goes on to say that they found pieces of clothing and other stuff. And it says here, there's a couple of pieces of old clothing here, just torn like pieces of rag. But there is a piece on the side of the road. It's weird. And it says, do you see the F-250, the truck and the SUV pretty much directly in front of you? Yeah, that's this blanket. Yeah, on the floor. We're coming up to it there. So there's a little bit of lack of context, and I wish we could see what they're talking about. You know what I mean? But
yes,
that's kind of where we're at here.
But he recognizes the blanket, but not the other stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't recognize the other stuff, which is
interesting. She recognizes all of it?
No. The only thing they recognized was the blanket.
No, Malia. Didn't you say she recognized the coat or something?
No. The green coat that was accounted for was a coat that was supposedly inside the house.
Gotcha.
Yeah. This clothing that was out there by the blanket, Daniel told me it was like a blue shirt and some other stuff, but that it was old pieces of clothing and things. And I asked him if they sent him a picture of it individually or if they sent him a picture of it all collectively. And he said it was individually. So I assumed, and that's just an assumption there. And, my assumptions aren't always right, but I had assumed there that it appeared that if they weren't photographed together or nearby, that they probably from separate different places from the search crew. They went out in one area and they found a random piece of shirt in the middle of the woods and somebody else found a water bottle or whatever the case may be. But after reading that, it almost sounds like they were all together, doesn't it?
It does. But that's going to be an interesting distinction, right? Because they could, if they weren't found together, then they might not have been, related. But if they are found together, then it seems like you were saying about the trash or whatever from multiple people, well, then that would make more sense if they were found together. But if they're found separate.
Yeah. And then after the blanket, the other thing I wanted to show you was the footprints. Let's see. Footprint. So this is May 3rd, 9:46 a.m. So the next day, we do have some clear footprints, so probably 3/4 away up the gas line. So a distance away and along the gas line. This is the thing that tells me that the kids wandered off. Like when I talk about Justin and Bradley Wong, I've continued to say it. It's probably like 15% chance that they had something to do with it. I questioned some of I was like, well, maybe they figure that Daniel did this and they're just trying to get some of that reward money by pointing the finger at somebody who they assume did it, but the reward money didn't come out till June. And so I don't know, but
that's a big distinction.
Yeah, exactly. The reward money didn't come out, start until June, and they were talking in, middle of May. So I don't think so. But in case anybody was wondering that. So the clear footprints, to me, still about 65% chance. So I'm like at 65% chance that they walked off. I do leave a 15% chance there that something may have happened after they walked off. They ran into the wrong person. That could be Wong. That could be Justin Smith. That could be somebody completely random. And so, I still leave probably another 10% chance that something accidental may have occurred with Daniel and the kids and Malaya. And then like maybe a 5% chance that something nefarious happened. I just doubt it because of a lot of the information that they had. So it's very low, but I'm not saying it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I agree with all that. And I think we're going to find out that they probably did walk off. And like you said, they could have ran into people. They could have also accidentally slipped into a river. There's so many things that could have happened if they did walk off, unfortunate. So I think that it's important that at the end, both of our minds are open, no matter what the percentage is. I feel like both of us need more evidence. And I want people to know that when I'm questioning or, holding Daniel's feet to the fire, that's not really what I'm doing. I think what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that we get all perspectives so that this could really make sense at some point. And I hope it does make sense to us at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so too. But this here says that they're clear footprints heading toward my waypoint. And so they don't really talk about the direction. It says asking photos taken, sent command possible. Let's see, because they were having a lot of like service issues out there. But the footprints were about 3/4 away up the pipeline. So they were pretty good distance away. So if we were to let's bring up the map one more time. So here's where the blanket was found. And I'm so glad that we can do this now. Because look, it's going uphill. And you see where this thing is right here?
We can't say it.
Oh, my bad. I forgot to do that. So here's where it's at. And as you can see, this road is going uphill. So for those that were thinking that maybe somebody threw out the blanket or that, the blanket would have to travel from even if you're in a big truck or a bus, like from right here, the blanket would have to go up and land like up here. Like that's weird. I don't think that's plausible. Because like this is the top of a vehicle that's driving down this road, and the blanket was like up here.
Couldn't it have blown there or no?
I don't know. Yeah.
And like gotten stuck in the tree?
My thing is like, I don't know why it's stuck here, but I mean, it could have, but like if you're going to like your grandparents' house, like if the kids wandered off and they're just walking out this direction, and look, there's something else over here. There's pink and there's pink there. This is August 20. Yeah. So this is after the kids went missing. And a lot of these pink things are where they searched. And for this one to be right here where the pink blanket was, I'm wondering if the clothing and all the other items they were mentioning were found along where these pink things were. Because it said, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. And that would matter too, right? So I think we need to find out, or, we need to see where because that, even though they wouldn't all be together right there, I would still consider that all within the same vicinity.
Yeah, I would too. And the train tracks are right there. And so if they were walking along the train tracks, or if there was like somebody nefarious on the tracks that jumped off and, saw some kids walking down the street and decided to jump off the tracks because they see some kids walking down the street, they're not that far off the road. But
I just don't know how plausible that is.
Huh?
I just don't know how plausible that is.
I don't think so. But I don't know how transients are in Canada if they ride the train. Tommy Lynn Sells did it.
Guess what? That is true. I do think that we need to think about that, and the fact that, it doesn't seem possible until it is, right? So until
Right.
we find something that we're like, oh, wait a minute. So, I mean, there's always a possibility of something that we wouldn't think of normally in this situation. But I don't know if it's like a very small town, unless somebody came into town on the train and didn't know, other than that, I don't know why somebody in the town would do it, only because why would this be I don't know. Like if this isn't something that, I don't know what the people's records are in the town, so I can't really say, but how over here, we have the Megan's Law where you could put it in, you could see where all the essays are around you. And do they have anything like that in Canada? Do we know if there were anybody there that is suspicious in that area, that sense? If they've been convicted of some sort of essay? And again, I don't know that there is. I'm just saying, do we know if there is something that could tell us that?
I don't know. That would be interesting. I'm going to ask some of the folks that I know that live out there if that's a possibility. Daniel says the train is for industrial products. Oh, there you go.
Well, then there you go.
And you see, here's the other thing. So with Daniel, one of the things that he kind of not necessarily debunks, but he tries to, he's not just going with everything and anything to say that he didn't do anything. And I think that's important, because I would feel that if somebody did do something and somebody else was like going down the wrong road, they would feed them into that to continue to go down the wrong road as long as it didn't lead back to them. Does that make sense?
Say that again.
So like if I did something nefarious, and we'll take Daniel and everybody else out of it, and I did something, and you started coming up with an idea that leads away from me, wouldn't I like continue to feed you? Like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what happened. Don't look at me. Continue doing what you're doing. Look over here. Look over there. You get what I'm saying? But like I think it would be counterproductive if I was saying, like, if you were to say, hey, I think somebody else did this, and I was saying, no, it couldn't have been them, and I am the one that really did it. You get what I'm saying?
I see where you're going with this, Daniel. I don't know. I guess it's, but this is the thing though. I guess you could also say, on the other hand, and again, I'm not saying anybody does, but I'm saying you could also be dealing with somebody that does have that capability to do that. So like, I know where you're going with that, but so I don't know.
Right. No, and I get that, but it's the same thing with like Janie too. Cause like, I'll tell Janie some things, like for instance, about Mr. Wong. And they're like, no, we really don't think so. And it's not something that I would expect from somebody who I was like, because I've talked to people who have committed crimes and I've interrogated them. And when you kind of, one of the tactics that you do is you try to give them an out, like, hey, hey, this person asked for it. They were picking on you. They were doing this. They were begging for it. They were doing that. And you give them an out, like, hey, we know it was an accident. We know that this didn't happen, blah, 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 blah. I see more often than not them try to, especially if you're trying to just get information, like if I knew that, and I'm trying to think of a specific situation, and the only one that comes to mind is this one hit and run thing that we had. And, it really doesn't fit the scenario. But if I see a situation where I think that, I have multiple people and I think somebody did something, I would start to come out, start saying, hey, we know it wasn't you. We know it was your friend. We know it was this. We know it was that, just to kind of get them to open up a little bit about another possibility. And I've seen people who have, followed anything as long as it didn't point to them, to their direction, when they've committed a crime. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not common that if somebody commits a crime and you're talking to them and there's another, explanation, that they don't just push that along, in my opinion. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense.
Kind of. I kind of see what you're saying. I hope that none of these people did anything to these kids, and that we can come on here and say that nobody did anything nefarious. That's what I really hope. I don't have my mindset one way or the other. I just think that there's just so much more that we don't know yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. There's probably a lot that I don't know. And we
don't know what we don't know.
That's true. That's true. That's why I kind of stick to what law enforcement says, especially on this case, because they know a lot more than me. You know what I mean? And for me right now, law enforcement has said there's no criminal offense, which would include Bradley Wong and Justin Smith, right?
Yes.
To me, everything screams that they believe that the kids are out in the woods, that they wandered off. You don't bring in cadaver dogs and stuff like that if that's not what you're, left with at the very least.
No, that's where I'm leaning to, unfortunately. And one of the reasons that I do lean that way too is because wasn't Daniel's mom saying that like that week before the other kids, his other children were there and that they were playing. So my thing, and that they had the backpacks, but they weren't like school backpacks. But then the kids also had backpacks that weren't their school backpacks. Mm-hmm. So my thing is maybe they were trying to do that. Maybe they were having fun and they were trying to do that on their own type thing. That's where my thought process goes at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they were able to get out.
I agree. It was, it
Well,
definitely
let's be
was.
honest. So I have a fence here, and my dog just found the tiniest hole and got his big body through it somehow. So I want to say that I am not, necessarily saying that, you could have a completely secure house and your kid could still get out. I'm just saying it's a shame that if that is what happened, that the kids were able to get out. The whole thing's a shame, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is a shame. It's and then that's one of the things that a lot of people will look at and say that they were being neglectful and they should have been watching their kids or whatever the case may be. I think it's impossible to watch your kids 24/7. You try to do the best you can, you know what I mean? But like kids have walked off and it not be because a parent wasn't being 100% neglectful. You know what
I
I
agree
mean?
with that. I told you my daughter was sitting out front of my car the one time and my neighbor brought her back. She was gone for 5 minutes, but like I beat myself up over it and I consider myself a very good mom. I guess my only problem with that one is if the kid got away before, like I feel like once Gianna got out of my house and was sitting on the car, my house was like barricaded. Ava was not getting out and I was very like hyper vigilant about it because it made me feel so shitty that Gianna got out for 5 minutes that I like went above and beyond. So that's the only thing that I wish they would have figured out a way to go above and beyond since this Jack did go off before, right?
That's what I'm hearing. And based on what I've heard from multiple sources, that, yeah, he did. He left when he was with in the same care, Daniel and Malaya's, and that they had left. He had, I guess, left out of the backyard of Malaya's grandma's house, went through a scrapyard, went through into a schoolyard, and was about to go into the woods after going through an entire soccer field before he was stopped by security from the school.
Mhm.
And yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. You would, but
if that's the case, let me be clear, that would be punishment enough. The fact that your kid, that you can't find your kid now. So like I do in my heart, same thing like with the Jen Soto thing. I feel like I'm on an island on my own there too. Like I feel like, okay, so people think she was neglectful, but I feel like losing her daughter is punishment. Like, I don't know. Like I would hope that going forward, that Daniel would make sure that his house is secure for his youngest child and his other daughters and stuff like that.
right. No, I agree. I would hope the same as well. And I think they were building a fence at the time. It just wasn't built. And that, there's some things there too, right? Like building a fence takes money, and if you're going through some hard times and things of that nature, you got to do the best you can with what you have. It's so with that being said, I agree. They probably, at the end, you're responsible for the whereabouts of your kids, and I cannot argue if somebody wants to say they were being neglectful or whatever the case may have been. I can't argue that. Now, if somebody wants to say that, something nefarious happened or this was a drug house and this, that, and the third, based on the evidence that they have there and the fact that the RCMP haven't, arrested them for any of that type of stuff, I find it highly unlikely. But the neglect aspect, that's one thing that I've always said. I cannot not argue with you on that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Daniel says the fence was done by May 2nd.
Okay. I mean, I've got emails saying that it wasn't done, but I don't know. It may have been. I know that it was done by the time they had the interview. That it was completed. Somebody had sent me a photo. But you know what? It was like an aerial photo. And so from the air, it may not have looked completed. But yeah, somebody had sent me an aerial photo. And it could have been from another time as well.
People are saying that photo show wasn't complete. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like that other photo of the supposed burner phone too, right? With the little baggie that ended up being a battery.
I forgot about that. And I said about a burner phone and I didn't even think about that.
Right. A lot of people were looking at that picture and saying that that was like a burner phone and things of that nature, and that there was a little baggie of drugs next to it, and ended up being a battery, and what it was a chip for a plasma lighter.
From the burner phone. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Let's see. If you have any questions, put your questions in and we'll answer them. And then we'll be calling this a show here soon. Let's see. Barbara Hall goes, I think the kids are still in the woods, unfortunately, and there are two are just clowns trying to make some money, just in my opinion. I mean, maybe. I don't know if there was a, talk of, and yeah, they may have a past, but they could be trying to do the right thing too. You can't discredit that. Not yet, at least.
Especially if the one has like little kids too. Like I would assume that I would hope anybody would be inclined to share what they could, but especially if you also had kids, that you would be like, so to me, it didn't seem like as crazy. And again, just like I said about Jane or anyone else, like at that point, you're like, people just want these kids to be found. So anything they may have heard or may have seen, they might have reported. And I mean, who knows? Like you said, they could have been doing it for nefarious reasons, or they could have been doing it to be a good Samaritan, or like Barbara said, they could have been doing it because they wanted that reward money. I mean, there's so many reasons, and I don't think that we know them well enough, but I also want to make sure that I'm careful that I don't point the finger at anyone, because if that then comes back not to be them, I would hate to have, and I think that's where you're at too. I don't think you're trying to point the finger at anyone.
No, I'm not. You know what? There was one other thing I just remembered. In this, I got to find it. But in the transcript, I could have swore they talk about 2 heat sources that they were able to actually see on a thermal that nobody talks about while they were searching the woods. It was interesting. I just thought about that right now when you said that. I don't know why that reminded me. I got to go back and find it. It's under all this stuff that I have highlighted, but I just can't remember what it was under. Could have swore it was under heat source. No, it must not have been. The only thing that pops up is heat exhaustion. Oh, there it goes. Now it's starting to work. See, here it is. Let me bring up my screen here. I got to go in and read it more, obviously, because I'm not familiar with it. But it talks about 2 heat sources. It says this is May 2nd, 9:50 p.m. It says, just for context, there's 2 heat signatures close together by a road. Gives the coordinates, and then I guess they never found anything.
Huh? That's weird.
Yeah. 2 heat signatures by the road, and they gave the coordinates, and they didn't find anything. This was at night.
Wait, when was this?
May 2nd, that night that they went.
Oh,
missing.
that night.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's like
9:50 p.m.
That's huge.
I do too. I don't understand why anybody was talking about that. I have to go through it all because there's 246 pages. I haven't gone through it all, obviously. But yeah, I'd seen that. I don't know what it's referring to. Maybe it's a. It says here, I got a point of interest for you. 2 heat signatures by a water source. We'll read off the coordinates ahead. Maybe it's animals that they found, but.
But 2, that's strange, right?
Yeah. It says I got 2 heat signatures. It appears like could be small objects sitting. These are small kids. Just 2 heat signatures close together near the water.
How many animals sit like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I have this document?
I don't think I can send it to you. I got it today, but yeah, when I searched up heat sources, all this stuff started coming out.
Wow. Why isn't anybody talking about this?
I don't know. See, I did highlight it. The vehicle picked up 2 team, but you're looking for the drone picked up 2 heat sources at that point. Then they couldn't find it. But 2 heat sources, one looked like it was sitting down. I mean, to me, there's so much there that says that they wandered off.
It's a shame.
And then can you go back to the spot where you seen the 2 heat sources and check over there? They didn't find anything.
Someone said it was black swans or something.
I don't know.
I don't know. Wow. Someone said it was Daniel said it was a beaver and a coyote.
Next to each other?
I don't know. Maybe they were hanging out. I don't know. I was just, I know. I don't know. That's what Daniel said. They said.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through it because now they're like they went through a significant effort to find these two heat sources. Because they're still
and I would feel like if they thought it was animals, like an animal of some sort, that like you know, if they went out of their way to look for this, I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone said 2 black swan statues, but why would they have a heat source if they're statues?
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look like, I mean, I'm going to go through it and see if I can find it, but yeah. The heat sources like that to me, like, again, you know, this the whole Wong and Smith stuff, I bring it up to everybody's attention because it's weird that the person that I thought that, you know, had some kind of shady background involved himself in the case, which is, if you look at, like, for instance, Richard Allen, he went and spoke to law enforcement about his involvement nearby and you know, him being on the trail and all these other things right away. And so there's other, you know, Bryan Kohberger, he returned to the crime scene at 9 o'clock in the morning that day. You know, I think he may have been, I know a lot of people say he wasn't Papa Rogers or stuff like that, but based on what Selbright has said,
yes, he was.
He could have been. I don't know if he was or not, but
I'm willing to bet a lot of money that he was. I said it from the beginning, and I am convinced, just psychologically, yes, you guys, he was. In my opinion, he was. Yeah.
Let's see. Did you see where Daniel said above that dog searched the Smith's house? Well, Smith didn't. So here's the thing about Smith's house is he was staying at a campground. Now, he has his 2 houses out there as well, the 2 places that he was staying at. I don't really think that Smith did anything, to be honest with you. Like, when I look at Bradley Wong and Smith, I'm almost, I don't want to say convinced, but it almost sounds to me like with some of the things that Brad has said that he was trying to convince, you know, like kind of manipulate him into thinking that he heard a car and that the car he heard was Daniel's. That's kind of what comes off to me. I don't think Smith had anything to do with it. Now, why would Bradley Wong want to do that? I don't know.
For $150,000, maybe.
Or maybe he does have a bunch of stolen stuff.
Or is he the one with the kids, or is the other one with the kids that are on the bus?
He's the one with the kids that he has kids that go on the bus, from what I understand.
So I mean, maybe he could. This is the thing, Daniel. There's so many people that I interact with that have a criminal record, and I don't know how long ago were his crimes. Like, were they that year? Were they 5 years ago? Like, how long ago were they? Plenty
was the one that I pulled up that he was arrested for. So it's been about 5 years since that crime. But so, like, what I'm being told from the people in the neighborhood, it's something that's ongoing. But I mean, I don't have any proof of that right now.
But then again, you guys, this is why I'm not a cop and Daniel is. I'm more the psychology person. I'm good at picking out some of the behavior stuff. So I don't know.
To me, though, like from what I read, it kind of screams at him. Maybe he has some stolen stuff at his house, or some drugs or guns or whatever that he doesn't want cops to find. And maybe he assumes that Daniel did do this. And so he's like, hey, it was him. I you know, throwing in his own 2 cents just to get the investigation going so they can get out of the area.
Well, that might have been what it is, but he might have also, if he's friends with the other guy, because you say that he didn't say that to the cops. He said it to
he said it to the other guy.
Friend. So maybe he didn't know for sure, so he didn't want to say that to the cops, but he was telling the friend, like, dude, I know it was
right. And law and media has talked to a lot of people in the area, and media is who put it out there that they have not made contact with any other neighbor who said that they heard something similar that night. So it's not just my source.
Was it that no other neighbor heard anything, or they didn't go and interview everyone?
From what I understand, nobody else heard anything. Now, there was a bunch of people that they did interview. I'm sure they probably interviewed more people than we even know about at this point. But from what I think it was like the CBC is what they call them. I guess it's Canadian Broadcasting Company. I guess that's what it stands for. They had indicated that these are the only 2 people that have heard anything that night.
Again, you would have to be awake to hear something. And they did say it was in the middle of the night. I do think it was a little bit weird that the one was like fixing his car all night, but that could be what he does.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. So I'm glad that you just said that. I don't know. I feel Is that not in anything? I'm glad that I said that because this is what I need. So you guys, I retract that. Where did that come from?
I've heard it, but I have no idea where that is.
Does anybody know where that came from? That he said that he was in the driveway, or that he was. You did hear that though, right?
Some people that's a rumor that's been spread, but I've spread rumors before.
I don't want to spread rumors, so I'm glad that you said that.
Let me explain that. So back when I was doing the Kohberger case, I did a little scientific test on my own that the Kohbergers would believe anything. And so I went into Kohberger chat rooms and YouTube channels with a burner account. And I would say things like, yo, my cousin's nephew, his neighbor is a detective on the case. And they told me that they believe Bryan Kohberger drove somebody to the area and he was outside. He was undercover and he was there because he knows what happened. Like the most outlandish thing, about 7 different channels covered that. And all I did was say it in the chat. I didn't say any proof. All I heard was people saying, "Oh my God, this is crazy. This is real. We told you he was innocent." And so, if something is said in the chat or in a chat room, or in
I
the
think it
live
was
chat,
a creator, but the creator, like you said, could have heard it from a chat.
right? And like I said, there was 6 different creators that were spreading the lies that I was saying. I was there laughing my tail off. I was like, man, I wonder what else I could say. And I came up with some random stuff to say, and it made it to several. And in fact, one person actually sent me an email one time saying, what do you think about this? This is what I heard in the chat of this. And it was what I had said. I was like, that was me that said that. And they got mad at me. They're like, why would you put false information out there? I was like, why would you believe somebody randomly in the chat saying that they are close to someone?
Touche.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
I do. I'm glad that see you guys. Daniel pushes back on me too. So and I'm glad that you do, because if that is not facts, then I do not want to spread that.
Now, is it possible that's what he said?
Hear that from, because I feel like I've heard that on many things. Does Daniel know?
I don't know, but let's just say it's real. He's up at 3:00 in the morning. You know what the temperature is in Nova Scotia? I mean, it was 4 degrees Celsius when the kids went missing at 10 a.m. What do you think it was like at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 a.m. while these guys are outside hanging out?
Well, that's why I said it to you. So, but I'm glad, because if it's not true, then they wouldn't have been knowing that.
Right. Now, again, I mean, they very well could be. They could have been out there working on their cars and doing this stuff. And
I've done crazier things. I'm up all the time in the middle of the night doing homework and stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Someone said that they say that he works on his car all night. I don't know though, you guys.
Is that the Camaro that's a 5-speed? I wonder what that sounds like driving up and down the street. A lot of people automatically assume every loud car that somebody talks about in that area is Daniel's. And the funny thing is too, because a lot of people were saying, oh, there's something to do with a Subaru. There's a Subaru involved. And then in the one article that I read about the arrest that they made on Bradley Wong, guess what he was driving?
Subaru.
There you go.
Subarus are loud too. My husband has an STI. And I have to watch when I say that, because that sounds like a slowly transmitted infection. But he has an STI, which is the stick shift, but it's a Subaru, and they are loud.
They are loud. And the other thing is too, is this is a wintry place that gets cold. I would assume that Subarus are probably prevalent there. You know what I mean?
I don't know if they're prevalent there or not, but I know they're loud, especially if it's a stick shift.
See, they're saying, a lot of people are saying they found 2 black swans, and then that was what was creating the 2 heat sources. I got to go and check. The swans was detected by drone through heat. Could be. Daniel says a beaver and a coyote. What do Brad and Justin do for a living? That's real work. So
that's a good question.
Brad was doing some construction stuff, and he actually got in trouble because he was doing things without permits. He was telling people he was doing things and then stealing from his customers, from what I understand. And this was I got this information from reviews on his company's on his Facebook company's page of the people that hired him and were upset, saying that they had lied about it was him and somebody else, that they had lied about their resume, they were criminals, and they had stolen. Thank you for asking, because I completely forgot about that. That was something I had uncovered a while ago. When I said, hey, I got a suspicious guy, that's when I found that out. I can't remember the name. I think it was like Two Broke Guys Construction or something like that. It was like the name of the construction company that he was trying to say he had. You know what I'm saying?
Harlan has me laughing over there because she's telling me to make sure that I don't tell people that my husband has an STI, to make sure that I put Subaru in front of it first. And she's definitely right.
We do it, DT. It was painted black swans on rocks. So I guess what they're trying to say is that these two heat sources were these painted swans.
How would that be a heat source, though?
I have no idea. I mean, it seemed like it wasn't the warmest out there. You know what I mean? 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. That's like 40 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, I would assume during the night it probably dropped down a little bit more. Beaver got up, walked around, revealing heat signatures from footprints. There you go. I don't know. You know what? Let me see. Let me pull this. Or let me pull it back up. Let me put swan and see if something pops up on the search. See if anybody says, oh, we found it. It was swans. All right. So it says here. Let me pull this over here. All right, so this is at May 2nd, 11:49. Affirmative directed there three between the tree and the water. You have a member 5 feet of us currently walking away. Okay. One of our drones, not in the air anymore. They're back here. The team's looking. There are 2 figurines of swans sitting there, painted black. They must have picked up heat.
Wow.
But
is that normal?
But here's the thing: the drones aren't there anymore, and so this is their assumption.
That's what I'm saying. Is that because is that normal? I don't know.
This is an assumption. This isn't saying that this was the case.
Do we know if it was at night or during the day? Because wouldn't that make a difference if the sun was out?
Yeah. So the drones were out there earlier, and they picked up a heat source.
So it was earlier that they picked it up.
Yeah,
that might make sense if it's dark. If it's dark, the sun might be attracted to it.
Yeah, exactly. And so it'd be different if the drone was still there and they walked up to, oh, there it is. That's not what happened. They went out there and they're like, oh, well, we have these swans sitting here. They're painted black. It must have been them. They didn't verify this.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is jumping to a conclusion. This is like when some folks say like, oh, well, they had the cadaver dog search, so the kids aren't in the woods. I'm like, man, cadaver dogs miss things. Searchers miss things all the time in less dense woods than that's out there. But it does say that they could have been the black swans. You know, let me see. Let me look up the first time the heat source comes up.
Daniel says it was a beaver and coyote caught when classified technology scanning at night. It was told after a briefing. Come on. I just wanted to make sure that I give them that voice.
Yeah. So 11:19 says, I've got a point of interest, 2 heat signatures by the water source. Read off the coordinates. So at 11:19 p.m., what time does the sun go down in out there? Now, if this is a painted item, there's not a heat source coming from within, right? This is the only heat source it would have is from taking in the sunlight, because it's painted black, so black captures more heat and light. And so,
could it then heat up the rock?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like the black is what.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, it captured more of the heat. I'm gonna get with my buddy Steve from True Crime Web. He's a retired CSI investigator. I'm gonna ask him this. and see what happens. He'll probably end up doing a test to figure it out. That's what he does. He did some great work on my Bryan Kohberger investigations. He literally set up the basement of some place to look like the King Road residence and set up a mannequin to look like Bryan Kohberger, and had lights put up in places to see what it is that you would see at night from different angles and if different lights were on. He did blood spatter for me, where he walked in a bunch of blood, and to see how it would track through the house with a black light, with booties on, without booties, and things of that nature. So I'm going to get him on it. I'm going to ask him like, hey, this is the scenario. It's 11:19 at night, sundown. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out what time the sun went down, what the temperature was throughout the day, the high, what the temperature was at sundown, what the temperature was at 11:19. All right. And
I would think that it wouldn't still be that hot.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, but I don't know. To me, I think it'd be kind of easy to test this out. And if I was, them, I would go out and figure out if that's exactly what it was that we saw. It's not like it's they're painted swans on a rock. It's not like it's going anywhere.
You're right.
Put up the FLIR again, fly it over there, make sure that's exactly what it is that you saw.
You should also ask him what the possibility of the coyote. What was it? A coyote and a what?
And a beaver.
A beaver.
They're trying to make a platypus.
You're so stupid. Oh my God.
That's what was going. That's how it happens. That's how it happens. I'm just kidding.
That's it.
And for those that don't know what a platypus is, look it up. Look it up. There's a great song that from Flowbots called "No Handlebars." You know what I'm saying? That one talked about a platypus, and that's where I found out what a platypus was. Let's see. I'm gonna answer a few more questions, then we'll call it a night. We've been doing this for about almost 2 hours. Jesus, I'm sorry. I know that you weren't feeling good.
No, you're good. Anything for the YouTube family.
There you go. And please hit the like button.
No gain.
Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and if you're watching on my channel, make sure you go and check out Dr. Vona's The Minds Behind
Same
Truth.
thing. If you're on mine, go check out channels.
Like on on Tuesday, guys, I'm going to be back into the Bryan Kohberger case. A lot of people have been asking me like, hey, what were some of the things that you knew? What were some of the things you didn't know? What were some of the things you got right? Some of the things you got wrong? And that's what I'm going to break down on Tuesday.
I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, because there was a lot of things I called in that case. And for those that are a little bit, I don't know, I guess if they doubt I don't want to sound like an arrogant ass, but if they doubt that I can figure some things out, watch it. And I'm going to break down all the things that I was able to figure out with a minimal amount of information. And so
we were both spot on that case, I must admit. Like you had it down to the investigation, and I feel like I had him from the minute I saw him. I had like his number, if you will. I feel like I just showed my age by saying that. Had his number. I feel like my mother that I just said that. But I feel like we were both spot on with that, and we both stuck to like our guns the whole way through. And I think it was good. I think it showed that we both knew what we were talking about.
100%. The one crazy part though, and if Connor's in here, she'll tell you is I called that he was listening to Britney Spears. Now that was a complete joke and accident.
Did you really? That is too funny.
Yeah. With the selfie. I said, I wonder what he's listening to. I bet you it'd be crazy if it's Huey Lewis, because that was in the movie American Psycho. And then I go, but for all I know, he's probably listening to Britney Spears. And then 2 weeks later,
that was your psychic ability.
That was my psychic ability. 2 weeks later, Dateline drops that he was listening to Britney Spears. I was like, what the heck? I was like, I didn't know that one, guys. There was some stuff I knew, but that one came out of left field. I was being 100% funny on that one. But yeah, that came out. But other things that I called, like the fact that, I knew that he had a radio. And the only reason I knew he had a radio, or that he had the app Broadcastify, and I named it by name, was because he was comfortable in going back to the home at 9 a.m. Now, why is that a big thing? The reason that's a big thing is because this guy lived close enough to have driven there anytime he wanted to. Driving back to the crime scene is something that is very tempting for somebody that has committed a crime like this, and is very common for people to have committed crimes like that to have gone back to the crime scene. Now, I had told everybody, I was like, look, he couldn't search, Idaho murders and things of that nature. He would have had to have waited for it to hit the news for him to have known. And that's probably one of the reasons why he showed up out there at 9 a.m. because he's not seeing that in the news. Then I went a little bit further. I was like, but just because it's not in the news doesn't mean that the crime hasn't been, seen or discovered. It takes time. This is Moscow, Idaho. It's not, Boise, where major news network is going to be down the street. It's going to be a little bit of a ways before the nearest major news media team from Lewiston, I believe, is up there. So it's going to be at least 45 minutes from the time that they get word. And so at any point, law enforcement could have found that scene. They could have found that scene when he left his apartment at the Steptoes. They could have found it just before that. They could have found that scene as he was driving down the street. And they would have put a perimeter, which they did. And a lot of people actually saw a picture of a camera that was put out there near the residence. And a lot of people speculated there was some random dude on Facebook saying, oh, I was part of the AV club and we put a camera out there and we got the back of the house and here's a picture. And they utilized that picture of the camera that was facing at the house. And it wasn't that. That was a camera that law enforcement put out there to start marking vehicles passing by because they assumed that there was a good possibility that the killer was going to come back around and revisit the scene. Bryan Kohberger didn't do that. In fact, law enforcement's PCA said that after that morning, he never returned again. In fact, he never even went back to Moscow again. It took a lot of discipline. So he must have had something that made him feel comfortable enough to go back. And so I said, you know what? There's a good possibility that he had either a radio. And then I went a step further and I go, well, let me see if they air out their dispatch. And sure enough, Broadcastify at the time was airing out Whitcomb 911 from Moscow and Pullman. And so he would have been able to have listened to it. And so then I got to thinking, I was like, hey, man, this guy turns on his phone in the middle of the night right away. Like everybody thinks he's stupid because he turned on his phone. And to me, that was because Dylan saw him. And he knew that Dylan saw him. And if Dylan, if he leaves that house and he doesn't know that anybody else is there, I don't think he turns his phone on again that night until he gets home. But because somebody saw him, he turned his phone on so he can turn on the radio dispatch so he can hear for law enforcement going out there. And so I was able to deduce all that based off of the mere fact that he only went back one time and it was at 9 a.m. And so that's how I was able to figure it. It has nothing to do with being psychic. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It has everything to do with knowing who the person is, knowing what it is that they would have known to do, and knowing the investigative purpose or investigative means. And knowing what it is that this person didn't do after that and how disciplined he was to make sure not to go back.
That's a great example of how we worked a lot together too, because I also know, like, I was able to tell the psychology of why somebody would go back. And I don't know, did we ever find out if he was using Yik Yak? Because I also felt like he went back there. So I remember when you said that, I also said Yik Yak you can only use if you're within 5 miles.
That's true.
So we put our brains together but yes, you're psychic too. So we do have to give you that.
I'm not
you
psychic.
definitely come up with something. I know, but you are kind of a little bit.
I try to be on the weekend. Did Malaya call Cindy before RCMP was called? I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, if she did, would that be nefarious to you if she called her mom before she called the cops? If the kids were missing?
No, because I might have done the same thing just to be like, Mom, like what, and my mom could have been like, did you call the cops? I don't know. I don't think that necessarily means that somebody would be nefarious, because again, I would be under the assumption that they didn't think at this moment that it was going to end up this bad. Like they probably thought that they had run off and that maybe the parent, if that is the case, said something like, well, did you call the police? Like, so I don't know that like if they did call a parent first, it was probably just because they weren't expecting it to be anything this bad or big. What do you think?
Well, I mean, when the kids go missing, I mean, automatically she's probably thinking they're going to find them right away.
That's what I meant by yes.
So if she called her right away, she's like, hey, the kids are missing. We're out here looking for them. I don't see that being anything nefarious. One way or the other, if she called first or didn't call first. Because I would have assumed that there would have been a moment of searching maybe even if it was a small moment, there would have been a moment of searching before they would have called 911. Jen comes in saying with $6.99, do you believe that RCMP brought the dogs to appease the public or to actually try to find their remains? I don't think they're going to go through the effort of spending a tremendous amount of money just to please the public. I think that this is a good indication of where they are in the investigation. I think if they had any other ideas of where the kids may have been and they had something to fall back on, they would have utilized that money and resources to investigating that avenue, whether that is technology, wiretapping, manpower, man work, things of that nature to investigate the crime versus just to appease the public. What do you think?
No, I agree. That would be ridiculous to appease the public. I would be infuriated if they did it just to appease the public.
Yeah, no, I would too. Lobster comes in with $2.79 super sticker. Thank you, Lobster. And Maggie Hayes comes in with her membership for 2 months. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So, Dr. Vona, what is there anything else that sticks out to you that you want to discuss or say that kind of leans you in one way or the other?
Not yet, honestly, no, because one, I've only been looking into this case for like a week now. So I don't think that I think if I did make a statement one way or the other, that would just be very that wouldn't be, that would be very premature on my end, not knowing everything. I will say one thing, Daniel, if you're still out there, and again, I'm not even making jokes. I would definitely, and this is just because I have a specialization in marriage and family therapy, I would do some form of therapy of some sort, even if it's like mindfulness meditation that you learn on whatever it is, but do something to reflect before you jump into another relationship, not just for you, but also for the other person as well. Because if not, I don't know if people realize this, but you wind up going, not him personally, but you wind up going for a lot of the same similar things, and then it ends up the same way.
All right, so I'm getting some information in.
Oh, no.
I'm being told that the two plastic swans pond ornaments were different items than the rock from the rock basement. And it was told not to forget that the rock was covered in moss. And the weather forecast for May 2nd was not sunny, and it only got to 5 degrees Celsius. So it didn't get warm at all. Food for thought on that information. I'm also being told that Brad also drives a Dodge 5-speed. It's a loud truck. Also has a purple MUNRO. Was that Monroe? Yeah. I'm not familiar with that car. Must be a new one. And I'm also being told from another person that everyone in the area has a dog. Dogs would have heard something, for whatever that means.
You would think, right? But I have 2 dogs, and as much as Thor barks and stuff, our house was broken into once, and they drove 2 quads out of our garage, and none of us woke up. Not even the dogs.
Yeah.
So I feel like things happen that we don't I feel like there's always like that room. And I think a lot of times that's why I always want to leave. Like I always want to keep an open perspective, except for when I really feel that like with BK, I felt that from the beginning. I was like, this is like, I just felt that one. I'm not feeling anything with this one, like specifically yet. But a lot of it too is I'm still reading the documents and stuff like that. But I don't know. I hope these kids are found.
I did too. Kent comes in saying 6 degrees, 119. Would say it's cold and windy, rainy as well. It's probably like, it was also cloudy and rainy that day. So, I mean, the heat source is to be something off of the ground because of the sun at that time of night. After it was cold and rainy, I don't know about that one. Afton comes in saying, I learned about platypus in elementary school. An egg-laying mammal is fascinating. Beaver and coyotes. How you do it? I can ride my... This is the song. Yes. Hope I didn't start anything weird. I did with the Bryan Kohberger case. I had called somebody by the wrong name one time. Hey, look, there's Connor. She says, I'm here. She was there when I said the Britney Spears comment. Good times. I'll be back on Tuesdays. What do you got going on from here on out, Dr. Vona?
Maybe tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but we've been doing the Mackenzie Shrilla thing, like the calls, the text messages, and we have like a really cool chat, and my daughter joins sometimes when we do that case. So maybe I'll do something. I feel like I need like a break from, I don't know, maybe I just have a concussion. I'm not sure yet, but I feel like I just need, like, I need to like go somewhere else for a second, my thought process. How about you?
I'm going to be talking about Kohberger on Tuesday.
Oh, I can't wait to tune in for that.
And then I'm also going to try to have on a couple of other people onto the channel here in the next couple of days as well. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
Connor says, if she butt dialed her mom, then it went to voicemail and left a voicemail, or did her butt hang up the call too? That's a good question. Now, so Malaya calls her mom at 8:28 a.m. There's a missed call there. And at 8:20 is when she wakes up, or she says around 8:20, and this is in the new documents, that around 8:20 that Netta was woken up because the kids were being loud, Lily and Jack. So she turns on the TV and lays back in bed. A lot of people are thinking maybe she turns on the TV so that Daniel can't hear what's going on. I don't necessarily believe that to be the case. I don't think that's uncommon for parents to turn on the TV for the noise aspect if they have other kids, to try to get one kid to go to sleep. You know, I think it's possible that she called her mom that morning. I don't think that's anything nefarious if she did.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it would be a big deal either way.
Teresa says, Malaya said on TV with the sun out today, hopefully they're warm. That was actually May 3rd. That was the next day. And because she was talking about how they would have been out all night, cold and wet. Now that it's warm, that maybe so. But yeah, no, that was May 3rd. That was May 3rd. All righty, Dr. Vona. Well, I want to say, watch out for those rear view mirrors. Be careful when you're walking.
Oh my gosh. It wasn't a rear view mirror. It was the side mirror on the door. And I literally didn't see it. And I hit it so hard that my daughter thought that her boyfriend, because he opened the door at the same time, but like over a little bit, she thought he cracked me in the head. She almost had a heart attack, but it wasn't. And I like even broke like part of the plastic. I hit my head that hard. I couldn't believe. We were laughing so hard. I was like crying and laughing at the same time. It was so funny, but it hurt so bad.
You got to watch out with those Corolla mirrors. They're kind of low to the ground.
They are. That's the problem. Think about that when a side mirror, when you're that short that you don't even see the side mirror. Like, I'm like, that's just crazy.
You know, I didn't tell you this beforehand, but I actually kind of did the same thing to myself today.
No.
Yeah, but not that hard. Not that hard. So long story short, me, the wife, and the baby went to see Six Flags, and we have a bigger truck, and my wife thought it would be cool to park next to the another big truck that was lifted. And so we parked next to them, and I went around the back because I was getting the stroller. I was walking right next to it. But fortunately, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Oh, I did not answer somebody. DT, did you answer at Super Sticker? I didn't see one. Let me see. I did not see one. I'm going to scroll up as fast as I possibly can. If I missed it, I apologize. Diamonds for DC. I'm going to see if I can find it, though.
Oh, yeah. Somebody asked us if we covered for the David case, and we have covered the David case. So you guys go look back because we've done that.
Yeah, we need to talk about that case.
Yeah.
He signed over some stuff into his mom's name, and he what else did he do recently? There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. We got to work on that one here recently.
Yeah, let me know when you want to, because I'm down for that too.
Sounds good. Well, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Appreciate everybody. Make sure you follow Dr. Vona on Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona.
Follow Daniel.
Yes, follow me on the Drunk Turkey Show. Don't forget, in the comment section and also pinned in the live, if you want to help support Starlet. Starlet Strong. You know, she was diagnosed with cancer within the last year and has been undergoing some aggressive chemotherapy. And, there's a lot of strain right now that is going on. And, keep them in your prayers and in your thoughts. And if you don't mind and want to support even a little bit, it's in the description. You guys have a great night. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.